You know, when you have a show about gratitude, you've got to be grateful for your sponsors. And in our life of gratitude, you know, we all have guides. Somebody that guided us through our lives, that made us appreciate those things that we have. And that's why I'm so delighted and so grateful for our sponsor, Life Guides. Life Guides is a peer-to-peer community that helps people navigate through their day-to-day stressors by providing a place of empathy, listening, wisdom, and support with a guide who has walked in your shoes, experiencing the same challenge or life experience as you. A true life guide. And because you're listening to our gratitude podcast, if you go to their website, lifeguides.com/schedule a demo and add the code HEALTHY2021. The code is HEALTHY2021 in the free text box. You'll get 2 months of their services for free. 2 months for free. So sign up, show your team you care, get a life guide. Be grateful for those guides in your life, as I am grateful for our sponsor, Life Guides. Hey, welcome to Leading with Gratitude Live. I'm your host, Chester Elton. I'm coming to you today from the new Gratitude Epicenter of the universe, Chicago, Illinois. We are live streaming on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and we are delighted that you're taking some time out of your busy day to spend 30 minutes with us. You know, we say, give us 30 minutes, we'll give you 30 minutes of great information, great inspiration, and a roadmap to a life of gratitude at work and at home. And it's brought to you by the amazing people at the Methods Network. If you want to invest in your leadership, Methods Network, there's nobody better than that. And in fact, because you are listening to our podcast today, you actually get a 50% discount. And once you check out and pick the course that you want, whether it's Marshall Goldsmith or Hortense Le Gentil or even our guest today, Peter Bregman, you get a 50% discount. All you got to do is put in Gratitude 2021. That's a pretty good deal. Well, listen, I am excited to have on the live show today two of my dear friends, Peter Bregman and Howie Jacobson. They have written an amazing book we're going to be talking about today. And here is a little bit about their story. So Peter Bregman and Howie Jacobson, Peter is recognized as the world's #1 executive coach and coaches C-level executives in organizations such as CBS, Mars, Citigroup, United Media, and many others. Peter is an award-winning best-selling author and contributor of 18 books, including Leading with Emotional Courage, a great book. I have a copy and you should have one too. Howie Jacobson, PhD. So Dr. Howie is an executive coach to clients ranging from startup founders to established and rising Fortune 100 leaders. He is director of coaching at Bregman Partners and head coach of the Healthy Minds Initiative and is the author of AdWords for Dummies. Together, Peter and Howie are the authors of You Can Change Other People, the 4 steps to help you and your colleagues, employees, and even family up their game. And it was published September 21st, like literally 2 days ago. So listen, welcome to the live show. Peter and Howie, we're delighted to have you here.
It's terrific to be here with you, Chester. Thanks for having us.
You got it. Hey, now listen, we have got JP. Now, JP is in the Question Command Center in Wichita, Kansas, now one of my favorite places on the planet. And she's going to be scouring all our listeners and viewers for questions to stump the experts. That's the Question Command Center in Wichita, Kansas. Okay, well, listen, let's get started. You know, we only have 30 minutes, and we want to talk about your new book. So Howie, first up, so in your new book, you point out the way that we try to change people creates resistance to change. Like even the title of your book, You Can't Change Other People. My first reaction is, really? Can you really? Talk about what you found in those 4 steps to enhance a real and lasting change.
Yeah, so we say that people don't resist change, they resist being changed, which is to say people make changes on their own all the time. You get married, have families. Peter just got a dog for the first time. We change our eating habits. We, get new jobs, and often it's effortless. But there are times when other people are trying to change us, when we feel like we're going to lose some autonomy or some control, or we feel like people want to change us because there's something wrong with us. We're not good enough. We're not right in some way. We can feel a lot of resistance. We can feel shame. And shame is an inhibitory emotion, and it stops us from changing. So the first thing we say is, like, if you want to change somebody else, don't contribute to the things that keep them stuck. Instead, create an environment in which they would naturally be predisposed to change in ways that are good for them, good for you, and good for everyone around them.
It's really interesting that you put it in that context, because you're right. We say, well, people don't really change, and yet we do change. I mean, we change all the time. That's a very, very refreshing. And you mentioned about changing your eating habits. Howie, tell everybody what you had for breakfast this morning.
I had leftovers because I was in a rush. I had last night we had cauliflower curry with brown rice. I looked in the fridge and there it was, and so I ate it.
We were laughing before the show as the mic test. We asked people what they had for breakfast, and when Howie told me what he had for breakfast, I thought, you got to be kidding me. That's the healthiest breakfast I've ever heard. Hey, over to you, Peter. Peter, you've written a few times in your blog about letting go of control. How do we get better at accepting things we can't change?
I think that there's two elements to it. One is, don't let go of the things that you can change, like actually develop and build the skill to change the things that you can. And that allows you to have some sense of control as opposed to an illusion of control. And then you can let go of other things. The other thing that I would say, first of all, is it's really hard. It is hard to let go of control of things. And part of what that tells you is, when you want other people to change, you want to give them control. So one of the ways that you can let go of control, this is going to sound a little strange, Chester, is by giving control to people who naturally would have the control anyway, and offering to support them so that they build their ownership, so that they build their capability. By offering and supporting other people who control things, it's easier for you to let go of the control yourself.
That's really such sage advice. Thanks so much for that. We get a really international audience that tunes in. We've got Shafali from Mumbai and Robert from Red Bank, New Jersey. Robert, I live up in Summit. We're like neighbors. Listen, the two of you have written a lot, and I love this subject about trusting that you are enough. So explain what you mean by that, and how it can help us through, the stressors that we get in work every day. Trusting that you are enough.
So in terms of, helping other people change, when people feel like they're not enough, they're going to try to overcompensate in all sorts of ways, or they're going to try to hide their flaws, right? Because, not being enough, not being valuable to the group is a core shame. And it's, evolutionarily, it's dangerous to not feel, part of the group. So if we want to help people change, we have to create an environment in which we empathize with them, we express confidence in them, and we ally ourselves with them so that they can feel comfortable saying, yeah, here's something I want to work on. Because anything that's swept under the rug, it's impossible to help people change. So that's really the basis of our first of the 4 steps, which is shift from critic to ally.
It's so interesting. I've been reading a lot about allies in the workplace. And, Peter, why don't you take this one? Why is it so critical, especially now, that you have an ally, that you have that trusted advisor, that trusted friend, particularly now?
I think, increasingly we are feeling isolated. Increasingly, literally for the last year, 18 months, we've been isolated. We've been, connecting with each other only through, 2-dimensional Zoom or connecting through phone. And I think that can really make us all feel anxious and lonely. And I think the idea of, in this moment where I'm not necessarily feeling connected in the way that I normally feel connected, in a way that I might feel more anxious than I've ever felt before, and anxiety, I'm seeing it left and right. I'm seeing it in my children. I'm seeing it in clients, that the more we have people who stand by us and who we feel we can stand by and say, hey, I'm going to help you here. This is something that you want, and I'm going to help you get it. I'm going to support you here. Feels really good, at a time when there's so much isolation.
Yeah. Who would have ever thunk that we'd say 18 months into the pandemic, right? There's no way it was supposed to last this long. Hey, Howie, how did you guys collaborate? Like, why did you decide to write this book on this subject? And why now? I'm always curious. Adrian Gostick, my co-author, we've written lots of books, and timing of your book is always really important. So fill me in a little bit why you can change people. Why did you write that book, and why did you write it now?
Yeah, well, the personal story is that I have been attending Peter's coach training workshops for probably 7 or 8 years now. And whenever he offers one to the public and I can make it, I will show up and hone my skills and get better. And I just, adore Peter's ability to teach and to lead a group. And he announced that he was doing his last one in 2019 in Esalen. And I went, and at the end of the workshop, I protested and I said, you can't stop. This is too important. It's too valuable. It's stuff, you can teach it to, 30 people, 40 people in a room who are paying money to spend 4 days away from home. But this really is life-changing, world-changing information, and it should be available to more people. And that speech, I did not think was going to buy me a writing gig. I had plenty of other things to do, but somehow in conversation, like, be careful what you wish for, we were then collaborating on, like, let's bring this into the world. And certainly when we look at the world as it is, we see a world in which connection and mutuality and respect and support are sorely lacking and dearly needed.
Yeah. You talk about all around the world, and I'm looking in the chat box here. We've got Zaire from Springfield, Massachusetts, Asalain from Senegal. We've got Dora Alexa from the Dominican Republic, Kathy Ann from Trinidad and Tobago. How great is that? And we're getting a lot of questions. So I'm going to throw it to JP in Wichita, Kansas. She's got some great questions for you from our viewers. JP?
Hey, how are you guys today? The first question is, what are the big no-nos that companies do that restrict change in employees?
Peter, why don't you take that?
Sure. It's actually interesting. The exact things that companies do to try to make change are almost always the no-nos that actually create the resistance to change. We create our own resistance. So when I create a super glossy document and I tell you what's in it for you, and I try to convince you of the change, and then I train you to do it exactly the way I want you to do it, what I'm doing at that point is I'm taking away all of your control. I'm taking away all of your ownership. I'm imposing it on you. And not only that, but I'm trying to convince you why it's in your interest for me to impose it on you. And so that sort of immediately creates this energy of sort of resistance and saying, I don't want to let go of control. So it's exactly the things that we try to do to bring change into an organization that is often the things that create the kind of resistance in the first place.
Isn't that interesting? All the things that we think as leaders that are going to make people, are exactly the no-nos. So Howie, tell us where we can find more about your work. And the book was just released a couple of days ago. Where can we find your book? Where can we find your work?
Yeah, so we put together a bunch of resources at bregmanpartners.com. So if you go there, you should be very quickly able to find the information about the book. We love writing books, and this is a digital age. So we wanted to make sure that there were other resources available for people. So when you get the book, there's a webpage you can then go to get all sorts of 9 additional dialogues and recorded coaching calls, so that really want to bring it to life for people. But it's bregmanpartners.com, and that's where we put everything about the book.
Excellent. Well, when you talk about finding great information, we always love to give a shout out to our friends at Methods. Methods of Peter, you've got a Methods course in here. So, just for if you're looking to invest in yourself, the courses are amazing. And I don't say that just because Peter and I both have courses. They really are. Sally Helgeson about helping women rise. Marshall Goldsmith, the #1 coach on the planet. Martin Lindstrom, if you're looking for marketing advice, the guy's just amazing. Well, because you're watching our live show and we'll listen in as we make it into a podcast, when you select the courses you want, when you go to the checkout, all you have to do is put in Gratitude 2021 at the checkout, and you get a 50% discount plus a 50% discount on your annual membership. So look them up at methodsof.com. Peter, I want to bring you back into the conversation. you've written a lot of books, right? And, as you wrote this book for the first time with your co-author, with Howie, how did that change your perspective, and how did that change the experience for you as a writer?
I mean, first of all, it was a complete and utter joy. I love Howie. I've known him for 20 odd years. They've been odd years. I've even known him for the even years. And I like it because he has a tremendous amount of humility, and he's very, very good at asking very, very hard questions. So I would say, like, here's the methodology. We would talk about it, and then we'd start writing, and he'd say, well, I don't understand this point, or what do you mean by that? Or what do you mean? And it when I'm writing a book on my own, I'm sort of sinking into a chair and sinking into a personal internal writing process. And here it's like writing with a reader and with an incredibly talented writer and an incredibly thoughtful person. And so it made my thinking more crisp and clearer and more specific. And, we wrote this book to be a user manual, like a very defined book that says, here's what you should say, here's what you shouldn't say. This is specifically how to use the process, so that anybody could get in and start using the process. And so I found that it got much crisper. And the last thing I'll say is, at a time we started off this conversation talking about how isolating the last 18 months were. My experience of the last 18 months has been collaborating with Howie, which has been such a joy. I mean, you've collaborated on so many books, Chester, sort of that feeling, and it didn't feel lonely to me at all.
Well, Howie, you got to feel amazing about that. That's, a gratitude obviously is the name of the show. And that was an incredible expression of gratitude from Peter to you, Howie. Hey, Howie, I've got a question for you, and the question command center from Janice Perkins. I'm interested to see what your answer will be, JP.
Hey, Howie. So we have a leader who's listening who says, okay, now I realize I've done everything wrong trying to implement change in the organization. How do I stop doing that? And how do I change course and begin again?
Before you answer, Howie, I want to say that what you should do is buy this book. So after you've bought the book, now what would you advise, Howie?
Right. Good catch. Good catch. I mean, my first response is, what a beautiful question. Right? Like, what a beautiful place to come from to say, oh, I've been going in a wrong direction, and now I want to change and go in a different direction. So just acknowledging that, taking that step, and having the courage to say it is already a huge part of the process. Then what I would say is, it's really hard to inhibit behaviors. It's really hard to not do something. So, we can call those like, dead person goals. Like, anything a dead person can do better than you, like not try to change people in a wrong way, is maybe like not the bar we're going for. Instead, I'd say do something else instead. So if the impulse, and we all have the impulse to fix people's problems, to tell them what we think, to give advice, to criticize, to motivate, if those are the things we've been doing out of the goodness of our hearts and they haven't been working, then the first step is to get in touch with your positive motivation. Like, because I hear from this leader, not only has he been trying to change other people, now he's trying to change himself from a place of criticism. Gosh, I've been doing it wrong. And the first step is to drop that and say, what is my positive intent about my organization, about the people, about my life, and really feel that there's goodness there, and to empathize with himself or herself. So we don't know what the gender is, with themselves, theirselves. And then from that place to, again, follow the first step to shift from critic to ally, to empathize with the person who's struggling, with the people who need to change, express confidence in them, and then really humbly and truly and honestly ask for permission to be in a conversation with them.
I love that. Start with yourself. Start with yourself and give off a better vibe, right? We want to welcome Malia Matulu from Istanbul, one of my favorite cities on the planet, Kayode from Nigeria, and Rose from Oceanside, California. Well, I think with all those people tuning in from all those different places, it's time to go back. We're getting a lot of great questions here. So, Peter, here's your question. JP, this is a good one.
Hey, Peter, this is from Dora Lixa in Dominican Republic. And she asked, how can you prepare shy members of the team to rise and develop more social skills that help them, the team, and the work environment?
Great question. So this is a perfect situation to think through in the context of methodology. And the first thing I want to say is, what enables people to change? People don't change, right? We've established, because you tell them to. They change when they want to, right? They change when they have ownership, when they have independent capability, when they have emotional courage, the willingness to feel hard things, and when they have resilience, future-proofing, so that they can continue to do it in harder situations. So your first move here, and step one, is to be an ally and not a critic, right? The wrong thing to do is to say, hey, you're being shy, show up more, right? That's probably not going to work. Instead, what you might say is, hey, and this is a permission formula we have, right? Which is empathize, express confidence, and ask permission. So I would say, hey, look, I've seen that you struggle in this area. I see like it's a little hard for you when you're in these groups of people or in the team, and I know, because I've seen in our relationship that you do it really well, right? Empathy, confidence. And then, can we think this through together? And just by engaging with this person who's, a shy member of the team, already you're bringing them out. Being in the conversation where you're shifting ownership to them, where you're saying, hey, can we think this through together? And you're involving them and engaging them in the process, you're going to be teaching the skills of being less shy as you're helping them to figure out how to be less shy. And then together you collaborate on thinking, what are some small risks we can take? How do I, what are the challenges? What am I feeling? What's difficult? And then the second step is, what's the outcome I want? Do I want to be less shy? Do I want to be more gregarious? What does that even mean to me to be less shy? Like, less shy is solving the problem, but the outcome might be, I want to be deeply connected to the people around me. Well, to be deeply connected, that, you could actually be shy and deeply connected at the same time. And in fact, maybe the fact that you're shy will help you figure out, like, the way in which you want to be deeply connected is in a personal, intimate one-on-one. So kind of being in their conversation and coaching, but planning with them, figuring out what the outcome is, which is step two, and then moving towards that outcome together is a way that you can begin to help them with the change process.
Such great advice. We've jumped all over the place with the 4 steps. So Howie, do you want to just take us through 1, 2, 3, 4? And then I'd love for you to talk about, as you were writing the book, how it went from a business book to also a personal book and how it impacts families. So the 4 steps, just real quick, and then how do people apply these 4 steps to their personal lives as well?
Sure. So a mnemonic you can use, you're in Chicago, so the land of Michael Jordan, is the basketball pass called an alley-oop, which is a high floating pass that sets up your teammate for a slam dunk. So our 4 steps are ally, oop, OOP, outcome, opportunity, and plan. So ally was that first step where you end up getting permission through empathy, confidence, and explicitly requesting permission. Outcome is now when they say, yes, I have permission, we just want to jump in and solve. We want to be smart. We want to fix it. We withhold that. And we say, well, what's the outcome we're going for? Is it, as Peter said so beautifully, is it about not being shy, or but in the service of what? For the sake of what? For what outcome? It might be to be deeply connected. It might be to be more influential. It might be to shift strategy. So whatever the outcome is, that's going to determine how we end up looking at the problem. The third step, opportunity, is about solving it in a way that we look back at the problem from the perspective of the outcome and say, how can this problem, instead of being a stumbling block or in addition to being a stumbling block, also be a doorway? How can it be a means to achieving this energizing outcome? And the 4th step is where the rubber meets the road, is the plan. So we have, insight, we have excitement, we have conversation, we have a mind meld. None of that matters until we have a specific plan for action. And the important thing about the plan is not that it's right or perfect or it's going to work 100%, but that the person who's going to engage in that plan is committed, is 100% confident that they will follow through. Because if you follow through, you will learn something regardless of whether it works or works perfectly or not. So those are the 4 steps. In terms of how it morphed into a family book, one of the things we discovered quite early when we polled Peter's email list and we asked, C-suite executives, his market, who do you want to change? I think more than half of them said like the number one person is a family member. So recognizing that we are all human wherever we are, at work, at home, at play, and recognizing that there's a lot of, the methodology is essentially the same. It's about giving respect, it's about creating space, and it's about supporting the internal powers that people have to change. It seemed natural to want to extend this to all domains of life.
Isn't it interesting too that, all these great business principles, we spend all this research on it, and then we go, oh yeah, my family, they could really benefit from this too. I shouldn't leave all this great research at work. Hey, Peter, tell us one more time where people can find your great work and your book and all the good stuff that you guys are pumping out.
Everything can be found at bregmanpartners.com, BREGMANPARTNERS.com.
One last question for you, Peter, and then we're going to go into, the big takeaways. But, we've just done all this research on anxiety at work. As you go through this change methodology and so on, is it going to reduce anxiety or increase anxiety, and why?
The methodology itself reduces anxiety because it moves people forward, and it also gives them control over their own process. But it gives them control over their process where you're a part of the picture, where you're supporting them. So, the reason we increase anxiety is because we live in uncertainty. That's one of the big sources of anxiety is uncertainty. So the way some leaders might try to eradicate anxiety is by taking control and telling everybody how it is. So that gives the leader control, but takes away control from everyone else. So what we need is a process that shares control, that allows me to do something that's going to help impact positive, productive results, and helps the other people have the kind of control that they need in order to impact results. And that reduces anxiety all around. And that's what the process is about.
Excellent. Okay, we're in the last 2 minutes, so this is the lightning round. So, Howie, in 20 seconds, what's the one thing you want people to remember from our conversation today? What's that one key takeaway?
The one key takeaway is that people don't resist change. They resist being changed. And so when we approach them as allies, even if we don't have all the techniques down, if we approach them as supportive allies, they will be much more open to investing in a conversation with us and exploring ways in which they can achieve the futures they want.
Excellent. And Peter, it's called Leading with Gratitude for a reason, right? We've got our gratitude journal on LinkedIn. Where did you find your gratitude today?
Oh my God, so easy. I found my gratitude in the last 30 minutes. It is at Chester. Every time I'm with you, it makes me feel warm inside and it makes me smile, and I love it. And Howie, I cannot think of a better partner in everything that I do. So and right now on my screen, I don't know how but right now I'm between the two of you. So I'm in my happy place.
Perfect answer. Well, listen, as we wrap up, be sure to follow me on LinkedIn, sign up for our newsletter, The Gratitude Journal. Don't forget, you get that 50% discount at Methods. Use the code Gratitude2021. Take a screenshot. You'll get your discount there. Well, we got a quick commercial from our wonderful publishers at Harper Business on Leading with Gratitude. Alan Mulally said that he loved this book. And then there's a not so subtle call to action. Buy me, buy me, buy me. My mother would be so proud. Hey, I want to thank the amazing online production team, and look no further than Brent Klein. His camera doesn't work, but the Question Command Center in Wichita, Kansas, we got JP. We've got the indomitable Christina Lawrence in Atlanta, Georgia, and of course our wonderful guests, Howie and Peter. Good luck with your new book. Buy 2 copies. Anybody can buy one and give one to a friend. Well, listen, we've got a tradition, and it's actually Peter's fault. We dance it out at the end of the show. So, Brent, turn up the music. Give us your best dance moves. We will see you next week, Leading with Gratitude Live. Thanks so much for the 30 minutes. We love our gratitude community. Brent, take us out.